Osteoarthritis all over my body. I've had 2 knee replacements. I've had 2 ankle reconstructions. Um, I've had more surgeries than I want to think about, because before the knee replacements on the left side, I had 4 surgeries, arthroscopic. And on the right side, they just went straight to the knee replacement. My hip is trying to give out, but I'm hoping that with this newfound earnest toward what I'm doing now, that some repairs can occur with my hip, because of the ankle reconstruction right after the knee replacement. I'm just hoping that it'll just begin to repair, because I really wore it down there for a while. The I'm also what they call an RH survivor. When I was born with RH disease, and had was not expected to live. So I'm dealing with some ramifications of being an RH survivor. And a lot of that has to do with the inflammation, the joint issues. I have degenerative joint disease is what I've been diagnosed with. And a lot of that, from my research, I found some of that anecdotally stems from my being an RH survivor as a baby. Lots of tetracycline that my mama took while she was pregnant with me, and after I was born, while I was breastfeeding. So it has a tendency to make me have weak teeth, and it's supposed to have weak bones, but my bones are not weak. Thank goodness they're not weak. I had like I said before, endometriosis, which began to take over my body. It was crawling outside of places it was supposed to be, and I was in a hospital like every week and a half to 2 weeks with dry heaves, and it's kind of like I don't know. I don't even want to. I can't describe what was going on during that year. Ended up with a hysterectomy. I have fibrocystic breast disease, which is monitored quite often. Seldom ever have a perfect breast exam. Usually have to always go back for them to look at things, and then they say it's okay because you're just lumpy, like that. I've never had a normal pap smear, because I have some cancer cells that they always see. And even though I've had a hysterectomy, I still have to go in for regular paps. I've had pneumonia several times, chronic bronchitis. I get bronchitis every single year whenever the flu season comes around. I have something called COPD, which is one of those pulmonary issues that they can't really put their finger on what it is. But my bouts with pneumonia definitely have weakened my lungs. There's some scarring on the insides of my lungs. I have to be very, very careful. I'm very sensitive when it comes to fumes and things like that. And then the older I get, my voice is getting deeper because of my pulmonary issues. And there again, that's why I'm always looking at ways to reduce my inflammation. That's why you'll hear me talk about, inflammation, things that can improve inflammation, reduce inflammation. The big, big part of what I'm trying to do with my health. And sometimes I have these acute COPD episodes, and whenever I do, the protocol typically is they give me a shot of steroids. I'm on 1, 2, or 3 rounds of steroids to open up my bronchial tubes, because everything else starts going crazy. The connective tissue stuff starts acting weird, and my whole body starts to hurt, and it just becomes one big episode of whoa. But what's so funny, let me tell you, what's so funny is that since I've been eating this way, since I've been whole food plant-based, and and it's going on a year. It's a year. It's a year. This is December. I started December 1st, 2016. These episodes are fewer. They're fewer. I've only had 2. And usually I have about 4 of these things. And it didn't last long. This last one, the acute part of it lasted a little bit less than a week. And usually it has me down for about a month. I mean, like this horrible coughing that happens, and then it doesn't go away. You know, and I have a little cough every now and then, but I'm improving. I can tell you that. And I know it has to do with my nutrition. I know it has to do with my nutrition and the fact that I've started riding my bike every day. You know, getting up early, ride my bike so I can talk to y'all. This has also been improving my pulmonary system as well. I know it has. It has to have, because, you know, I would have already had 2 of these episodes. I would have already had them. And my other one was early on when I first started eating this way. So I can just say that, you know, ever since I've been solidly plant-based, I only had the one that happened a couple of weeks ago, and that didn't last very long. Now, you know, that steroid weight gain, what you going to do? You know, I can woe is me all I want. Just deal with it, you know. Now, a year ago when I decided to do this, when I decided to, you know, fully go plant-based, I was at my biggest weight, highest weight that I had ever been. I was 287 pounds. I had high cholesterol. I was pre-diabetic. That's what grabbed me by the ears and got my attention. I went to the doctor, and my A1C was 6.3 or 6.4. In other words, it was like 1 or 2 more percentage points, and I would have been what they would have called clinically diabetic. I didn't want that. Because I'd always heard that once you're diabetic, you're always a diabetic. Once you go over that threshold, there's nothing you can do. You know, you always hear that, right? I had no idea that these things could be reversed. I was just afraid, you know, of everything associated with diabetes, your kidneys, your joints, you know, their neuropathy, everything that you hear about. The people I've known, you know, I did not want to have that full-fledged diabetes, not with everything else that has been going on in my life. And so that's when I went and grabbed some of my old Dr. Furman books, because Dr. Furman was the very first person who was a plant-based sort of kind of person, who I read his stuff like a few years ago, and I was always, you know, pretty good eater with the knowledge that I had. But I had no idea, you know, what a fully plant-based eating regimen would do for me. So I went back, read some of his books, and then I read this other book called The China Study. That made a big impact on me. Then I watched Forks Over Knives. I watched Plant Pure Nation. I started watching documentaries. And then that's when I decided I'm going to be a pod leader. I've got all this knowledge inside of me. And my change happened overnight. I didn't transition. When I got this knowledge in me, I stopped eating animal products immediately. Because the one thing I kept hearing was animal products cause inflammation. And I was like, whoa, if it causes inflammation, I'm not putting that in my body, because my whole issue, my lungs, my connective tissue, my joints, my degenerative joint disease, everything that's going on in my body is a direct relationship to inflammation. You know, I ingest my turmeric on a very regular basis. I eat my mushrooms, you know, on a very regular basis. I study things that help with inflammation. Man, when I found out that animal products, including dairy, especially dairy, not just including, especially dairy, cause inflammation, I flipped that switch. That was a no-brainer. Now, do I occasionally slip and, you know, and get vegan stuff that may not be healthy for me? Yeah, occasionally. Often, no. No, I'm pretty focused when it comes to trying my best to take care of my health. But as I said, I was pre-diabetic. I had high cholesterol. My blood pressure was rising. My triglycerides were going higher. Um, and at that particular time, I was unable to walk without an apparatus. Had been for years. I walked with a cane. Sometimes I needed a crutch. At school, I had 3 bouts of being in a wheelchair. One time was 4 months at a time. Another time was 3 months at a time. Another time was about 3 months at a time. Because everything was happening. It was just overcoming my body, especially following surgeries. I never stopped working. You know, I was just that teacher that had all these problems, you know. Yeah. And so I decided to make that change. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I did know that whenever I felt dismayed, I'm a Creole cook. Louisiana, Atlanta Creole, right? I was taught to cook the way they cook in Louisiana. That's what I do. And I was a good one. Am a good one. I'm a really good cook, actually. I just had to learn how to take those principles of cooking that I knew from my Creole cooking and transfer it to plant-based Creole cooking. And I've come up with some pretty crazy, wonderful dishes. But now, I mean, what has happened since? My A1C is now down to 5.5. I started my weight at 287. I'd gotten down to 226 until I had to go on those steroids. Now I'm leveled off right now at 238. But 238 down from 287 in 1 year, I'll take it. And that's without trying, people. That's without trying. That's a byproduct of what I'm doing. That's awesome. You know, my cholesterol went from 200 and something down to 175, and that was about 4 months ago. My triglycerides are now in the 80s. My blood pressure is excellent, excellent. You know, 117/72, pretty consistently. I'm getting healthy. I'm healing. And my COPD episodes are fewer and less intense. I'm not hurting all the time like I was before. Am I still hurting sometimes? Yes. That's been my life. I've never lived without hurting. I've had so many pain pills in my system and anti-inflammatories in my system. I'm surprised that my poor liver and my kidneys have been able to keep up. And so I hypernourish. I get my greens. I want to heal. And I do everything that I can to heal. So my purpose for being in the groups and the challenges that I'm doing with you all is twofold. Number one, I've got to finish getting rid of this weight because an unhealthy weight is an unhealthy body. But secondly, I want to heal. And that's what I want for all of you. It's to heal. There's twofold here. And we're in this together. And I'm a poster child for an unhealthy body. You know, I'm a poster child. If I can turn things around, and if I can see these changes occur, you know, with the fact, you know, I was a Creole cook, and man, I make some pretty tasty dishes now. And so, you don't give up stuff. You're gaining things. You're gaining life. I'm gaining life. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Well, y'all have a great day. And I'll be online later on tonight. Bye-bye.